Last week, the HOA president shoved a letter right in my face during the neighborhood meeting. She said it was destroying curb appeal, that no one wanted to live next to something that looked like a bunker. I tried to explain calmly. I'm a retired Army Corps engineer. Floods are what I spent my career dealing with. They laughed it off. 100-year flood here? No way. Less than a week later, I was standing safely inside my house, completely dry, watching through the window as that same woman staggered through waist-deep muddy water, pounding on my door in panic. Please let us in. Our house is flooding. We lost everything. The entire street was underwater. Cars floating. Expensive homes filling up by the minute. My so-called ugly wall held perfectly. Not a single drop inside. That's when I finally learned where our HOA fees had actually gone. The money meant for drainage never reached the drains. Karma doesn't waste time. What's the worst HOA story you've got? Drop it below and tell me where you're watching from. This is how a simple home purchase turned into an all-out war with the most corrupt HOA in Colorado. 3 weeks earlier, my wife Elena and I moved into Willowbrook Estates. You know the kind of place. Every house identical, like an architect copy-pasted the same design over and over. The development sits on former floodplains about 30 miles outside Denver. We chose a corner lot because it stood 8 feet higher than the rest. After 20 years with the Army Corps of Engineers managing flood control projects, you start noticing elevation and water behavior instinctively. The smell of fresh lumber from new construction couldn't completely hide something else, a damp, earthy odor of old creek silt. Most people wouldn't notice it, but I knew exactly what it meant. Water had been here before and it would return. Elena was still recovering from 18 months of brutal cancer treatments that nearly killed her twice. She survived, but chemo left her drained and fragile. Moving was already stressful. The last thing we wanted was conflict. We just wanted peace so she could heal. Day 2. I'm outside checking property lines when I hear sharp heels clicking aggressively against concrete. Picture a blonde real estate Barbie in designer workout clothes marching up my driveway with a clipboard like she owned the place. The sound of her shoes hitting damp pavement should have been my warning. Hi, Brandy Ashworth, HOA president. Her smile was blinding, but her eyes were cold and calculating. Welcome to Willowbrook. I just need to discuss a few tiny community standards. I'd placed temporary sandbags along the creek. Basic flood prep while I researched permanent solutions. Nothing extreme, just standard procedure. Those sandbags, she said with fake concern, really don't align with our aesthetic vision. Any exterior modification requires committee approval. I pulled up county flood maps on my phone. This area floods every 20 years. 65, 83, 99. I'm being cautious. Her smile twitched. Oh honey, that's ancient history. Modern engineering solved all that. Besides, ugly barriers hurt everyone's investment. That's when things got interesting. I asked about the flood mitigation infrastructure she was praising. She answered too fast. That's handled by management. What matters is maintaining our beautiful community. She handed me a violation notice already filled out. 30 days to remove the sandbags or face legal action. I watched her BMW disappear down the street, her expensive perfume mixing with diesel fumes from nearby construction. Elena stepped outside and saw the paper in my hand. What now? Apparently, preparedness was a crime against curb appeal. That night, I did what engineers do. I researched flood wall designs, county codes, HOA authority limits. Then I followed a hunch. Where exactly were our $200 monthly flood mitigation fees going? Every homeowner paid them. Nearly $500,000 a year. Enough for real infrastructure. HOA budgets are public records. What I found was shocking. $0 spent on flood protection. Not 1 cent. The money went to landscaping, cosmetic upgrades, and administrative fees. Flood mitigation somehow became flower beds and management bonuses. Elena found me at midnight surrounded by documents. Find anything? Better than good. I found something that would make the HOA president very uncomfortable. 3 weeks later, that discovery would save our home and expose the biggest HOA fraud the county had ever seen. The next morning, I applied for a permanent flood wall permit. Completely legal. Fully compliant. The county engineer reviewing it praised the design. Smart move, he said. That creek's been dangerous for decades. You're the first one here who actually did the homework. Brandy didn't agree. 2 days later, she showed up with backup. 3 board members who looked like they'd rather be at a spa. They lined up in my driveway while Brandy waved a petition. The air smelled like coffee and construction exhaust. Jake, we've gathered signatures from concerned neighbors about your project. She made it sound radioactive. 47 homeowners believe your wall will hurt property values. I looked closer. Half the signatures were clearly written by the same hand. I'd seen fake reports before. How many of these people even saw my plans? I asked. That's irrelevant, snapped one board member. This is about community harmony. You can't just build whatever you want. I made my mistake there. I tried logic. I spread my drawings across my truck hood, explaining how the wall would actually improve drainage for the whole street. Weep holes. Controlled flow. Landscaping to blend it in. The concrete samples felt solid in my hands. Exactly what you want between your house and floodwater. This protects everyone, I said. Brandy barely looked. Jake, your military background is admirable, but this is a civilian neighborhood. That comment had an edge, like being a veteran made me less qualified. I felt Elena tense beside me. She'd heard that tone from doctors who dismissed her cancer because she looked healthy. My experience, I said carefully, involved preventing floods that kill people. I can handle one creek. Maybe you should have stayed in the military if you can't adapt, the treasurer sneered. That's when Elena stepped forward, calm and deadly serious. Are you seriously suggesting my husband doesn't belong here because he wants to protect our home? The silence snapped tight. Even the construction noise seemed to stop. Brandy recovered quickly. Of course not. We just believe in more attractive solutions. Decorative grasses. Rain gardens. I almost laughed. Rain gardens won't stop a 100-year flood. Then she played her card. She showed photos of my sandbags. I've filed a complaint with the city. An inspector will be here tomorrow. What she didn't know was that I'd already spoken to Inspector Rodriguez. Professional courtesy matters. Great, I said. He's a good man. We talked yesterday about proper mitigation. Her face drained. You already spoke to him? Of course. He's excited to see a properly engineered wall here. Said most people just hope for the best. I didn't mention his comment about the development's drainage being dangerously flawed. The HOA huddled, whispering nervously. When Brandy turned back, her confidence was gone. Even if approved, we'll monitor every aesthetic detail. I'm counting on it. After they left, Elena and I listened to the creek flowing just a little faster than normal. Think they'll stop? Not a chance. People like that escalate. I was right. The next morning, there was a dead fish in our mailbox and tire tracks through Elena's flowers. Things spiraled fast. Dog waste appeared on our driveway. Our newspaper vanished. Elena's car was keyed. Brandy kept her hands clean while turning the neighborhood against us. We stopped getting invited anywhere. Elena watched a block party through the window, the smell of barbecue drifting over. It hurt more than I expected. She wanted connection after everything she'd survived. The next day, I saw how deep Brandy's influence ran. A kind elderly neighbor wouldn't even look at Elena. That night, Elena came home shaken from her cancer support group. Someone told them I was unstable, dangerous. Suggested she leave me. A blonde woman from our neighborhood. Brandy. That crossed every line. Instead of exploding, I focused. Emotional reactions lose wars. Information wins them. I dug deeper. Brandy's husband worked for the insurance company covering every house in Willowbrook. Every policy had the same buried exclusion. Pre-existing flood conditions not covered. Illegal under state disclosure laws. I called my old friend Doug from County Utilities. He inspected the drainage quietly. His verdict was brutal. This place was designed to flood. Storm drains undersized. Retention ponds misplaced. Water funneled straight into basements. Meanwhile, Brandy pushed an emergency vote banning military-style structures. She sent flyers to everyone except us. But Mrs. Vanessa, who survived the 1999 flood, warned us. You should be there. At the meeting, 43 homeowners expected a simple vote. Instead, they were about to learn the truth. The room smelled like burnt coffee. Brandy smiled confidently until she saw me walk in. She presented photos of my sandbags like evidence of a crime and demanded a vote. Then I stood up. Before you vote, shouldn't you know what you're really voting on? The room went silent. Brandy tried to shut me down, but it was an open meeting. I had proof. Confusion spread across faces. Sweat broke through her makeup. And that's when everything started to fall apart.
Jake's wall is an eyesore, but my wall prevents flooding, I said evenly. Before we debate how things look, let's talk about safety. How many of you remember what happened here in 1999? A few hands rose, mostly from longtime residents. Mrs. Vanessa nodded slowly. I walked forward, opened my laptop, and connected it to the projector Brandy had been using. Do you mind if I show everyone what they're really voting on? Brandy stepped in. This isn't standard procedure. We didn't approve any presentations. Emergency safety information doesn't need approval, said Doug Martinez, who had quietly come in during Brandy's remarks, especially when it involves public welfare. Doug worked for the county, and that alone shifted the room. Brandy couldn't push back without looking like she was risking everyone's safety. My first slide showed aerial photos from the 1999 flood. Muddy water swallowing streets, cars drifting like toys, homes marked with water lines halfway up the walls. The room fell silent almost instantly. This is what happened right here 25 years ago, I said. 3 feet of water in 60% of homes. Total destruction. $47 million in damage. The murmurs returned, this time edged with fear. That was a long time ago, Brandy insisted. We have modern drainage now. Let's talk about those systems, I said, clicking to Doug's report. Doug Martinez is a county hydraulic engineer. Doug, can you explain what you found? Doug stepped forward, all business. The drainage system here is undersized by 30%. The retention ponds are positioned to fail, and the creek modifications actually raise flood risk by 40%. The room went dead quiet. That's not possible, Mike Stevens protested. We pay extra for flood protection. That's when I dropped the bomb. You do pay extra. $200 per home each month. That's $480,000 a year. I advanced to the HOA budget slide. Want to guess how much of that went to flood protection? The screen showed a big 0. Where did the money go? Mrs. Patterson asked, her voice shaking. Landscaping, admin fees, and consulting payments to Ashworth Property Management, Brandy's company. The room exploded. People shouting, demanding answers. Brandy's face shifted from pink to red to purple. But I wasn't finished. And here's the most important part. Every insurance policy here excludes flood damage caused by pre-existing conditions. All written by the same company, Cromwell Insurance. Someone yelled, so what does that mean? It means when this place floods again, your insurance won't pay. And the agent who sold those policies, I looked straight at Brandy, is your husband. The silence was crushing. Then Mrs. Vanessa stood. I lived through the 1999 flood. Lost everything. These people profit when we lose our homes. The vote was unanimous. 43-0. Brandy was suspended immediately and a criminal investigation demanded. She grabbed her purse and fled. The next morning I woke to Elena's pancakes and my phone buzzing non-stop. News travels fast in small towns, and apparently all of Colorado had heard. The most interesting call came from Sarah Beth Wilson at Channel 9. Mr. Torino, we hear you uncovered financial irregularities in your HOA. That's like saying the Titanic had a small leak, I replied. An hour later she sat at my kitchen table, eyes scanning documents spread like evidence. She was younger than I expected, sharp and focused. Jesus, she whispered. This isn't just fraud. It's systematic. If homeowners paid flood fees for policies that never cover floods, that's federal. Elena set down coffee, steadier than she'd been in weeks. How much money? Sarah Beth did the math. Conservative estimate. $2.3 million. The number hit hard. Here's what likely happened, she said. Brandy's husband secured exclusive insurance contracts. Policies designed to never pay out. Brandy collected flood fees and routed them through her management company. The design of it made me sick. Create the disaster, profit twice. But there's more, I said, pulling out the development contract. The original builder was legally required to maintain natural flood barriers. That duty transferred to the HOA. Sarah Beth's eyes lit up. So she wasn't just stealing. She violated a legal mandate while collecting fees for it. My phone rang. Brandy. Sarah Beth hit record. Jake, her voice trembled, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. You embezzled money meant to protect homes. It's complicated. Management costs, community expenses. Your BMW lease isn't community protection. Silence. How did you get those records? Public documents. Including your Aspen down payment. She cracked. Maybe we can fix this. I'll upgrade everything. With what money? Please, Jake. I'll lose everything. You should have thought about that before gambling with 200 families' lives. Meridian promised the drainage was fine. There it was. Proof. When I hung up, Sarah Beth was buzzing. You just got a conspiracy admission, and the FBI's already watching Cromwell. Elena squeezed my hand. What happens now? Outside, the creak sounded louder than usual. Now we prepare. The forecast changed everything. Massive snowmelt, flash flood warnings across the region. Saturday morning I sat in the garage surrounded by concrete, rebar, and calculations. This wasn't just about my house. Sarah Beth arrived with cameras. Channel 9 wants live coverage. Doug came with sandbags and gauges. Reservoirs nearly full. Levels not seen in decades. Elena came out, battle ready. What's my job? Document everything. Neighbors arrived. Radios, supplies, apologies. We planned safe zones, evacuations, triage. The most important prep was legal. The FBI sent Agent Walsh to observe. The crime would unfold live. I was reinforcing the wall when Brandy called again. You're exaggerating. 6 inches of rain isn't normal. It's catastrophic. What should I do? Tell homeowners the truth. I can't cause panic. Panic saves lives. Sunday night the creek roared. Rain hammered down. Alerts buzzed. Water rose fast. Mrs. Vanessa fled to our house. The wall held, but drains failed everywhere. Then Brandy called, panicked. Water in her garage. Please help. Have you warned them yet? I can't. They'll blame me. They should. I'll repay everything. I'll resign. Emergencies reveal who people really are. I'll help you, I said, but only after you warn every homeowner. I don't have their numbers. You organized a petition. You have them. Silence. Water rushing. At 4:20 a.m.
Tom's radio crackled with urgent updates. Emergency services were overwhelmed. Residents were told to shelter in place or move to higher ground. That was the moment the real crisis began. Mrs. Martinez called from 2 streets away. Jake, our entire first floor is underwater. We're trapped upstairs. Then Mrs. Patterson rang. Water is pouring through my windows. I don't know what to do. Then Mike Stevens, the HOA treasurer who had been so quick to threaten me with lawsuits. My house is flooding. The fire department says they can't reach us for hours. Elena looked at me with the same calm strength that had carried her through cancer treatments. We have to help them. She was right. No matter what these people had done, they didn't deserve to lose everything because of Bry's greed. I called Tom. What's the status of the boat? The county loaned us an inflatable rescue boat. It's in your garage. For the next 2 hours, Tom and I ran rescues from my flood wall. Elena coordinated from the kitchen, tracking who was safe and who still needed help. Mrs. Vanessa, even though she had been evacuated herself, helped organize supplies for displaced families. We pulled 12 families from flooded homes, including Mike Stevens and his kids. Every rescue came with the same stunned realization. We never thought this could happen. No one warned us. Our insurance doesn't cover floods. By 6:30 a.m., 23 people were sheltering in our house and garage. My so-called ugly flood wall had become the only safe zone in the neighborhood. Brandy never made those warning calls. At 7 a.m., her house alarm went off, the one triggered when water hits the electrical panel. Through binoculars, we watched muddy water flowing through her first-floor windows. Her white BMW was completely submerged, like a luxury submarine. Agent Walsh documented everything. The flooded homes, the rescues, the insurance policies that would never pay, and the woman whose greed caused it all. "This is the clearest case of insurance fraud I've ever seen," she told Sarah Beth on camera, "and we're watching it unfold in real time." By sunrise, Willowbrook Estates looked like a battlefield. 18 homes severely damaged, 47 cars totaled, and one HOA president whose criminal case was about to dominate headlines across Colorado. But everyone was alive. Sometimes that's the only victory that matters. Dawn revealed the full scale of destruction. From my wall, I saw the neighborhood turned into a muddy lake, rooftops poking through the water. Cars drifted like toys. Garage doors hung open, spilling brown water and debris. The smell hit first, a sickening mix of sewage, gasoline, and rot that burned your eyes. Sarah Beth's crew arrived at 7:30 a.m., just as county rescue boats began systematic evacuations of homes we couldn't reach overnight. The live broadcast split the screen. Families safe in my garage on one side, devastation stretching endlessly on the other. This is Sarah Beth Wilson reporting from Willowbrook Estates, where one man's flood preparation has meant the difference between life and death for an entire community. Agent Walsh continued documenting evidence. She photographed policies, recorded statements, and gathered proof of Bry's financial crimes. But the most damaging evidence was still emerging. At 8:15 a.m., the first insurance adjuster arrived, a nervous man in waders who took one look and started making frantic calls. Through binoculars, I watched him inspect houses, take photos, and shake his head. Mrs. Martinez, sipping coffee with Elena, noticed me watching. "What's he doing?" "Calculating how much money Cromwell Insurance is about to refuse to pay." "What do you mean?" Elena showed her the policy we'd reviewed the night before. "See this clause on page 47? Flood damage from pre-existing conditions isn't covered." Mrs. Martinez went pale. "Pre-existing conditions? Like what?" "Like living in a flood zone," I said, "which this development always has been." That's when Tom called from his ham radio. "Jake, you need to hear this. I'm picking up Cromwell Insurance traffic." The transmission was clear. Regional manager to claims supervisor. All Willowbrook claims denied under Section 47B. Pre-existing flood exclusion applies to entire development. Zero payouts authorized. Elena grabbed my arm. "They're denying everything before inspections because they knew this flood was inevitable. That's why the exclusion was buried in the fine print." Agent Walsh looked up. "That transmission is conspiracy evidence. They planned to deny claims before the flood ever happened." By 9 a.m. word spread through the evacuees. Families who'd lost everything realized their insurance was worthless. Gratitude turned into raw anger. Mike Stevens confronted me. "You knew this would happen. Why didn't you warn us?" "I tried." Brandy intercepted my letters. "What letters?" Elena pulled out copies. "Your husband sent certified letters 3 weeks ago. Flood warnings, insurance advice, offers to help." Mrs. Patterson leaned in. "I never got this." "None of us did," Mrs. Martinez said. "Because Brandy threw them away. She didn't want anyone preparing on their own." The group turned toward Brandy, huddled and soaked, looking like a miserable cat. She had been silent, but now she was surrounded by 20 furious families who knew the truth. "You destroyed flood warnings," Mike said quietly. There were liability concerns. If people panicked unnecessarily." "Unnecessarily?" Mrs. Martinez cried. "My daughter's bedroom is underwater." That's when Agent Walsh stepped forward. "Mrs. Ashworth, I'm FBI agent Jennifer Walsh. You're under investigation for mail tampering, insurance fraud, and embezzlement." Brandy's face collapsed. "I want a lawyer." "That's your right. But we have recordings, financial records, and 23 witnesses to your confession." At 10:30 a.m., the rescue boat arrived to evacuate Brandy. As she walked out in borrowed clothes, carrying a garbage bag of soaked belongings, the irony was perfect. The woman who tried to force me out left in disgrace while I stayed to help rebuild. The final twist came when the county inspector examined my wall. "Mr. Torino, this is the most effective private flood mitigation I've ever seen. Would you consult on emergency retrofits for other communities?" Elena squeezed my hand. "What do you think?" I looked at the devastation that could have been avoided, then at the families alive because we prepared. "I think it's time to make sure this never happens again." Rebuilding was about to begin, and this time it would be done right. 2 weeks later, the community center was packed again. But now it wasn't just residents. County commissioners, state regulators, FBI agents, and news crews filled the room. The smell of coffee barely masked lingering flood damage. Brandy sat near the front with her attorney looking years older. The hearing was called an emergency public safety review, but everyone knew it was her public reckoning. Commissioner Valdez opened the meeting. We're investigating whether criminal negligence endangered lives. Sarah Beth's live stream had over 200,000 viewers. Agent Walsh spoke first, outlining $1.44 million in embezzled funds and coordinated insurance fraud. The crowd murmured in disbelief. Commissioner Valdez faced Brandy. This is your chance to explain yourself. Ignoring her lawyer, Brandy stood. I never meant for anyone to be hurt. Speak up. I said I never meant for anyone to be hurt. The risk seemed small. The developer said drainage was fine. I thought we could use the fees for visible improvements. Mrs. Martinez stood. My daughter lost everything. Where did our money go? Brandy broke down. Kitchen remodels, car payments, a vacation property. We were struggling. Our money was sitting there, Mike shouted. The room erupted until order was called. I stood. 3 weeks ago, I sent certified flood warnings to every house. Mrs. Ashworth destroyed them. I played the recording of her confession. The silence was crushing. You stopped your neighbors from protecting themselves, Valdez said. Agent Walsh stepped forward. Mrs. Ashworth, you are under arrest. As she was handcuffed, someone yelled, what about our homes? The county announced an emergency fund and a lawsuit against Cromwell Insurance. Mrs. Vanessa stood and thanked me for showing what real community means. Applause filled the room. Commissioner Valdez offered me a role as an emergency preparedness consultant. I looked at Brandy being led away and at the families who survived. It's time to build more walls. Cheers erupted. The mural was Elena's idea. Watching kids paint hope across the wall, I knew she was right. The trial was swift. Brandy pleaded guilty, went to prison, and restitution followed. Cromwell paid a massive settlement. But the real victory was the community reborn. Willowbrook became a model of preparedness. Elena found new purpose helping others heal. My work expanded across states, teaching communities to protect themselves from disasters and greed. Every morning I drink coffee behind the wall that once caused so much conflict. Kids play where floodwater once stood. Neighbors know each other now. The wall stands. The community is stronger. And somewhere in prison, Brandy Ashworth is learning what accountability feels like.